Localizing from one language to another should mean creating texts that evoke the same feelings in both audiences, even if the words aren't exactly the same. But sometimes, things get lost in localization. A good example of this is Pocky and Rocky, a delightful game that has a secret. A racist secret. Natsumi's 1993 Pocky and Rocky tells the story of Pocky the Shrine Maiden and Rocky the Raccoon. They chase after Black Mantle, who has been causing all kinds of commotion by putting a spell on the local Nopino goblins, making them go crazy. The first two levels look very Japanese, which makes sense given how all of the spirits are based on Japanese folklore. But remember, in English, these are Nopino goblins. But when you get to the cemetery level, the gears shift really quick as you meet the Gorgonzola goblins. This does not look like a Japanese cemetery. There's actually a good reason why this cemetery looks distinctly Western, though you wouldn't know it by playing the English version of Pocky and Rocky. The first notable difference in the level between the English and the Japanese versions is in the name of the level itself. In English, the level is just described as a cemetery, but in Japanese, it's a cemetery for foreigners. In fact, the game goes so far as to use the word gaijin, which I don't think the developers would use today. There's somewhat of a debate in the Japanese foreign community as to how derogatory the word gaijin is. But you definitely know that a Japanese person calling you a gaijin isn't saying it for good reasons. In the 1800s, Western colonial powers established foreign residential zones at Japanese ports designated for international trade. This was a significant part of Japan's forced opening to the West, and it would be reasonable, from a nationalist Japanese perspective, to see these foreign settlements and their graveyards as nothing less than colonial outposts on the Japanese homeland. And it turns out that might be exactly what the game is going for. The Nopino goblins are actually Nihon yokai, or Japanese spirits. The invading Gorgonzola goblins are Seiyo no yokai, or spirits from the Western world. My assumption is that yokai was localized as goblins because in 1993, America remained in the grip of the Satanic Panic, and it would be extremely hard to sell a game full of strange, demonic Japanese spirits to kids with religious parents. The real story of Pocky and Rocky, translated directly into English, is that Western spirits have come to invade Japan, and the Japanese spirits are the ones standing in their way. This is why, after traveling through two levels that are very obviously set in Japan, you transition to a graveyard of dead foreigners, board a huge boat that brought these invaders, then infiltrate a Western-style castle. I actually have mixed feelings about the true storyline. On the one hand, this is based on true facts, and Western powers did set up quasi-colonial states in Japan. But on the other hand, using the word gaijin for foreigners makes me think that the developers weren't just trying to describe the antagonists as foreign, they were trying to make a point. I can only speculate as to why the localizers discarded the original storyline and went with the more cartoonish Nopino goblins versus Gorgonzolas. Again, we have to remember that in 1993, Americans were probably still kind of afraid of Japan. For almost a decade, Americans feared that a booming Japanese economy would become the world's next superpower, and the 80s bubble economy had only just burst. I don't think Pocky and Rocky's localization was a bad idea, given the times. But today, it would be considered a poor localization. After all, in 2015, Level 5 didn't release Goblin Watch, they released Yokai Watch. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I also hope that you will go out there and play some Japanese video games. Thanks for watching, and mahalo.